It's that time again. All right, is there any agenda additions or deletions? All right, hearing none, move right along. We'll go for the minutes from 1/13/25, regular meeting.
So moved.
I'll second that.
Is there any conversations around that? Any questions? All right, let's go. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? 1/15/25, minutes.
So moved.
I'll second that again.
Is there any questions about that, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? George, you and I gotta sign all those.
What's that?
You and I have to sign it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Budget minutes.
I don't know as I've seen those or I've read them.
They were in there. I'll make the motion to approve.
Yeah, I read them too. Is there a second? All right, Cash seconds it. Any further conversation around that? All right, hearing none. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Hey, Evan, I'm just gonna mute. Just gonna set you off to the side here, and we'll be down to you on the agenda here before very long. Okay?
Sure.
What do we got?
Evan,
Oh,
engineer.
gotcha.
All right, road commissioners report.
Actually, today we're able to, because we got snow coming in a little bit tomorrow, we tried out the brine tank. We did 20 miles of road and give it the test run and see where we're at with it.
Okay.
And go from there.
With the 200 gallons?
What's that?
With the, you just used, that was,
Well, we have 2,000 gallons in that
Yeah.
tank, and yeah.
This is the first time putting it down, Kev.
Mhm. Yeah.
I saw the streaks on Middle Road, so I figured you must have been out.
Yeah, we did part of Middle Road. We went down Walker Mountain Road, Olive Creek Road on the north end, Alphresia, and then from Moulton Avenue south on Middle Road to Squires Road, and then back around, so we had 2 lanes. I didn't want to do the whole town like this section out here, so we can kind of compare.
Yeah.
Because we do have salt residue, left from previous
So
storms.
see how it works.
Yeah, that's the only thing I have.
How long did it take you guys to do that?
Well, that there was about, let's see, just over an hour and a half. To figure it out, and we're still, we're adjusting it. We stopped twice to adjust it a little bit.
Yep.
We got it pretty well, we think.
Tank, how much you use in the tank?
There was 1,000 gallons.
So you used all of it? With that 20
No,
miles?
2,000 gallon tank. We used just about 1,000 gallons of product.
I noticed you did the southbound lane, Creek Road, not the northbound lane.
We
So I
did.
figured you're doing that your
We
comparison.
did. We did northbound lane.
Not
And
from,
what we're
from Alphresia Road. Maybe you did.
Yes, we did, because what we found out with the sun, it dried it out. You
Okay.
can still see some streaks. And being a gravity system, as the tank got lower, there was less pressure, and it changed like coming down the mountain, we had to slow right down.
But that's the point, right? You want that to dry on the road, basically, right? So that stays there,
Yeah,
right?
right.
So just
Right.
for the 1,000 gallons for 20 miles,
Mhm.
I know this
Yeah,
discussion's
and
been around the salt usage. What was the salt usage?
Probably less than 500 pounds.
It was, on the 2,000 gallons, yes. Yes.
Or if you spread it with a truck, it would have been 14 ton.
No, not that, quite that much, but it'd been up there,
It's usually half of what the
about 10, yeah. Would have been on that 20 miles.
Well, nothing, like they say,
Let's see.
testing it and see what it does,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So,
The
try it.
issue we have is making it, and what we found out was it actually froze up in the tank, which I didn't think it'd freeze at all.
Yeah,
Eh.
probably if it wasn't sitting right out in the wind.
Well, that was the other thing we figured out, is out in the wind, we had no place to put it under cover or protect it.
Then your valve on your tank needs to be a winter valve. That means it's bored on the back side, like it's gonna go out to the,
Yeah, the whole tank was froze though.
yeah,
She had a layer of 4-inch ice all the way around the whole tank,
right.
Oh, it cased.
whole shebang.
Because it's starting to separate. And that's why it does it. If it was circulating, it wouldn't have froze.
Okay.
But that's,
Trial and error.
didn't out of the wind or something
Right.
like, it's pretty simple.
And it's been on trailer for a week now.
Yeah,
You can
pretty cold.
sympathize with
We've
those
had
of us who are
some
getting
cold.
ready to start sugaring.
And we've had a cold week.
What's
I
that?
said you can sympathize with those of us who are getting ready to start sugaring, because our tanks will do that at least once this season, so.
Our whole-
Yeah. Yep. So
So,
it's, you know, it's just trial and error and
yeah. Yep.
work in progress. So,
Didn't take long to make it, did it?
no, this is the idea to figure out how to, the first time is,
It's like 5 or 6 gallon, like a 5-gallon pail full
we
of salt
had-
to 200 gallons of liquid.
I can't remember now, but yeah.
But if this
Because
is,
our other problem is our water source, and we're drawing out of this well. And that's scaring me very much. Because I know we were washing trucks there a couple years ago, and actually that well went dry. We ended up calling Parker's that time.
Yeah, we did something out here. What'd we have to do to it? I can't remember.
Well, one time, of course, the wire broke, but that was different.
Yeah.
And there weren't enough supply when we're drawing a lot of water when we're doing the dust control, stuff like that time.
Well-
that was way back.
Test it out, see
So,
how it goes.
Yeah.
Punch another well.
Well, this one here needs to be upgraded.
Right.
He's
right.
down too low. It needs to be a top exposed.
can you draw
Right.
water out of the Mill River?
Sure.
You can. Yeah. That or
A&R
whatever.
won't get after you for doing that?
Don't let
Not out of a dry hydrant.
One of these.
No, because it come out of the hydrant and stuff.
Oh, out
Fire
of the
department.
hydrant.
Just like
Yeah,
fire
yeah,
hydrant.
Yeah.
Fire department.
So that's about it. That's all I have to.
I would think that if this is successful, we want to build something more permanent than what you
Yeah,
guys have
this
set
is-
up.
It's just a temporary trial and inexpensive because Eddie's played most of the stuff and
I can get you in contact with people that actually make a big one. You just take the payloader and dump it in.
Okay, yeah.
And then the other alternative, and I don't know, maybe the state, V-Trans, they might, if we have
They
big tank,
may.
they might deliver it to us. I don't know. I mean, it's something to look at.
Yeah, well, let's see if it works.
Never know.
Gotta see how it goes
works
first. Were you wanting us to do with anything with this tonight?
Yes.
Okay. Is that new business or are you doing it now?
We can do it now on the way.
Okay.
I got quotes. I ended up with just 2 quotes on the trucks for replacement. What I did is a Mack and one of the, which one is it? Is for automatic transmission, and the other Mack is with straight clutch, 8LL.
I assume the straight clutch is a little cheaper.
Like 12,000.
Yeah, the 164.
164. And the one with the automatic transmission is 175,000.
Yeah. Okay.
And then there's a Volvo priced out with the standard transmission, and that's 169. Also, talking with that, actually, be careful how you talk to the sales people. He was telling us that he's, of course, pricing out all over the state municipalities, that even Western Star's like 5,000 more than the Mac prices that he's given.
Really?
Yeah,
So they're higher right
they're
now.
higher. The cheapest truck, he said, is the Freightliner. And he said that the issue there is your long-term of issues with the trucks of the Freightliners. You know, you take a 10-year period And what you're gonna, you paid on the top end, front end that you paid less for it, but it'll catch up to you at the, and plus trade-in value isn't as much.
On the
at all.
backside.
On the backside. On top of additional repairs that they ran into.
What are you recommending to the board?
I recommend the Mack with the standard transmission,
And this would be
an 8L down.
purchase to be outfitted for next winter.
Yes.
Is basically what
And
the
if
plan
we
is.
order, and this is the issue is, he says every quarter that they've been going up. The green truck that we bought, when did we buy that, 3 years ago?
Yeah.
It was 124,000. Now we're looking at 164,000.
Inflation's
I mean,
kicked
just
everybody's tail right now.
Increasing all the time. The other thing is, he's got an allotment, and Friday he's gonna fill that allotment. If it ain't with us, it'll be somebody else. Still order a truck. And if we ordered it right away, we would receive the cab and chassis the end of July, 1st of August. And to get it outfitted is another issue. That'll be a winter project, so the truck wouldn't be here till early spring, late winter. And that's better than 2 years like we talked about before, because of for the COVID.
So
and
was that
everything,
in
really
the
helped
form of a
things back.
motion, or was that just a suggestion, or what?
I'll go ahead and make the motion to order the standard transmission Mack.
I'll second it.
And I have all the rundown of it right here.
Well,
For all the
I'm good with
sizes, motors, and
that. We've already been down this road two
what I
other
did is
times.
I matched it up with the old Mac, the 2016, that
Okay.
same rear end and everything.
Yeah, I'll stand by my motion to officially order that.
And
Second.
in that motion, it says here, one signature. So you wanna add that to your motion, that the select board
Yeah, I'll
chairman.
add to my motion that the select board chair can sign on behalf of the board.
Second.
Which truck are we replacing?
The Western Star,
Big
That's-
money forever.
the one that.
We've been
kinda-
dumping money into.
Mhm. And
Right,
the other,
there's
the other
been a
thing
motion
is,
made, and we've had discussion on it. Do you have anything else? Yes.
nope, that's all I have right now.
All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed?
Spent 164,000, that's enough, I wanna say.
Yeah.
Is that all you had?
That's all I have.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we, since we have Evan on and his time certainly is valuable as all of ours is, but I would make a motion that we go ahead and allow Fitzgerald to offer their update to the
Yes.
project.
I agree.
Okay.
Let's do it.
All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All those in favor of the motion, you said? Aye.
Aye.
Right. Go ahead, Bob.
All right, Evan, the floor is yours.
Okay, can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
I think so.
Okay, good. Yeah, I can provide an update on the work we've done so far. I think, was it Heidi, or the select board assistant reached out to me and asked that, or indicated perhaps that you as a board had some questions about the scope of the work. So I can, I've got our scope up and I can talk through that and you know, show a map. I don't know if I could share a screen or if people can see it, or is it just on your computer, Robert?
Let me see. I think I can set it. You should have the option to share now, I think.
Okay.
If not, we'll see. Yep, there we go. Okay. I'm gonna just kind of put this over here, so hopefully people can get a little bit of a view of it there.
I'm gonna
That's better.
zoom in here, and I can also describe it just in narrative format, given that not everybody can see the map clearly. So the scope of this work, as I understood it in coordinating with the select board based on the concerns that the town has and the historical, damage and flood damage and maintenance issues that the town has had here at the Middle Road Culvert. The scope of the work was to use some of the past survey and hydraulic calculations that we had from after the Irene flood and Irene recovery and some of the alternatives that we looked at a few years after Irene, to use that information and then update it with current survey of the river to better understand the hydraulic capacity of the Middle Road Bridge, and in particular when the sediment builds up upstream of the bridge such that it's compromising what we call the hydraulic opening of the bridge. In other words, too much sediment builds up, too little waterway opening is left in the bridge, and therefore not enough water can get through and goes around the bridge and causes erosion, which we know has happened in the past. With that in mind, we developed the scope of work to update survey, which we did this past fall, and I can talk about that in a minute. And with the scope of work, I provided the map that I've got up on the screen here that shows the area where I felt was needed to, based on the information that we had, including past survey and understanding the slope of the river, etc. The area where I felt additional survey and where the management plan would be focused. So that's from the Middle Road Bridge, we're talking about roughly 1,000 to 1,200 feet upstream, not all the way up to the old Route 7 crossing, but around the bend, up to about where the project that A&R did a few years ago, approximately where that earthwork on the north bank on the Ruane's property ended. So that would be the upstream extent of the survey that we perform, and then downstream to the railroad bridge and a little bit below the railroad bridge. And I mean, just to explain the thinking there, we look at the slope of the river, which is dropping quite a few feet through this area. In fact, there's about a 10-foot drop from the Middle Road Bridge down to the railroad bridge. So by the time you get down to the railroad bridge at that constriction, hydraulic constriction down there, and you get past the railroad bridge, not much down there because of the grade change is affecting the hydraulics back up at the Middle Road Bridge. This is something we studied 10 years ago in our original work. So that, anyways, I just want to explain that's how we landed on this survey extent for this work, and what we were driving towards with the outcome of this river management plan was pretty focused on the area around Middle Road Bridge. And my understanding is the town and A&R would like a mutual agreement on when the bridge has limited capacity based on the sediment deposition happening, over time that we can measure and create reference points for, so the town knows when the bridge gets to that critical point, so that A&R, there's this plan in place and management can happen. Management meaning sediment can be removed from the channel upstream, and each time that trigger point is hit, this relieves the town from having to go through a long, back and forth and permitting process with the state. Rather, it would be prescribed and understood, when this work would need to happen when it reaches that point. So that was my understanding of the work, and we performed the survey, current day survey work this fall. We were out there. We met with several of you from the board, with Josh Carvajal, the A&R river engineer, and we talked about this approach, and then we performed the survey work, which we have in our files, and we are working on, now that things have calmed down a little bit over the winter, and we haven't had any floods in the past 6 months. We're playing a little catch up and doing the modeling work that we need to inform the plan. That's the update, and I'm happy to take any questions or have any kind of discussion about what I just talked about.
Evan, I know eventually we talked about the possibility, this is Robert, I'm sorry, I'm off screen, the possibility of moving into a point where eventually we have hopefully a plan for essentially the whole river. Obviously this is I think many of us would agree critical, like phase one, but what do you see down the road if we're able to continue talking and looking at especially the bottom of that ravine in the area of Carreras down through connecting to where we are talking now, and then potentially talking about below the railroad bridge where we've had some pretty significant impacts as well. Do you see that as a phase 2 and 3 that we can talk about?
Yeah, I mean, I think once we get something in place with A&R, we can we could talk about that, and the past the more comprehensive river corridor plan that we worked on after Irene that covered both Clarendon and Shrewsbury, of course, dealt with these areas, not in the level of detail that we're doing here, but I guess it seemed to me that the focus right now was on, kind of critical town infrastructure, the Middle Road Bridge. I know there's been property damage and property concerns in other areas, and even obviously, town roads at risk upstream. And I guess whatever the priorities from the town, the select board are, as next steps, we could have a discussion about that and how to expand the work.
Danny, do you have any questions?
No, sounds like a pretty good scope.
Yes.
Just like the rest of the project don't get thrown out of what Robert just mentioned about phase 2 and phase 3.
We need to, I think we need to.
It'd be all tied
This
in.
is a good first step, but I think
point.
we've got a lot of other areas that are going to have to be addressed.
Yeah, I think you need to set a precedent with step 1, and then you can build on to phase 2, phase 3.
Because that's certainly going to be.
Right.
Evan, would it be safe to say that those other 2 sections would require less than what this? I mean, just because of the complication with the Middle Road Bridge, do you think that below it and above it could go quicker, so to speak? Would it be those 2 sections easier to address, or do you think that they're going to be just as complex?
Well, I guess maybe if I could hear from the board or anyone else in the room about, what are the primary concerns downstream and upstream, that might give me a better sense of, whether it's on the meeting right now or, if, written out in the future, another discussion. But I think it would help me to, because, the level of information that we collect and analyze to then justify to the state some kind of plan is kind of commensurate with, what the need is. I think there's a very clear need here at the Middle Road Bridge. There's documented past damage. It's public infrastructure. There's repeat damage, and not only is there repeat damage at the town bridge, but in the surrounding area that is exacerbated by the conditions at the bridge. So
I think
it's a little less. Yeah.
Sorry, I think from my perspective, I'll just chime in from where I'm at. I think the board's feeling is that the deposition of the material coming out of upstream, Shrewsbury and beyond, up into the mountain, that deposition really begins in the area of Carreras and really goes all the way down through and is having impact. So I think, knowing that the twin bridges on Route 7 had impact during Irene, I think it's just all the way down through. And then speaking to the farmland influences down below that have faced significant impact as well. What we can talk about, all the way down through. Eventually, maybe this is again phase 1, but I think the goal ultimately would be to get those other 2 sections done as well, so that we can protect everything. Not just that Middle Road Bridge. Certainly, the Middle Road Bridge is probably the biggest piece, which is why this is a great starting point. But I think we've got a lot more, is what we're saying.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
I think
just looking back at.
I think what Evan's trying to
this-
say is because there's a bridge
Oh,
in
absolutely.
this first part, A&R is willing to work with us. But as far as farmland later on, A&R doesn't really care about farmland, unfortunately. But that might be a difficult task for him.
That's my opinion too. They could care less.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it's that
It would be nice.
bleak.
I don't know if they'll go along with that.
Yeah. I mean, A&R will allow farmland owners to, stop erosion on banks without, honestly, with less resistant, meaning less permitting headache than even doing that around public roads and bridges.
The erosion on the banks isn't the issue, it's the deposits that came down through the river.
Yep. Yep.
Just like
So,
the floor of the river we're talking about.
That
Sure.
brought stuff up.
Yeah, that especially just above the Middle Road Bridge. You saw that. I mean, it splits the river every time, and it keeps depositing more and more in the middle of the river bed. There was some conversation at one point where we could get in there and move that out, so it moves the river back to the center of the area.
yeah. I think, and I think as part of this work too, we'll have some volume estimates for how much sediment would need to be removed, say when the next, big plug comes down, the next flood. I know you probably have town probably has some good documentation of what that took from your contractors in the past, but
The last
as
time,
you know, it's,
the last time that any major work was done in there, of course, they took the berms out on the north side. But the last time the major work was done in there, where they hauled a lot of fill out of there, was when they extended the airport runway. And that was because the state needed that, so all of a sudden, it was a miracle. We could get in the river.
Well, post Irene, a lot of material came out.
Irene, it all got moved,
That's
Yeah.
what-
not removed.
Well, but you had some come out because there was the big pile next to Peterson's, right? On
Yep.
yours, Danny,
On
right?
Dan's,
Yeah, probably
on Dan's.
about 20,000 yards came out.
Is that what it was? About 20,000? Yeah.
I'm gonna thumbnail it. That's what ended up there. A lot of it ended up previous to the conversation about the town needing to use some for bank reinforcement up on Corber Road.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Prior to that, a lot of it went up to Carreras.
Okay.
Onto a dump site. But I guess to interject, the main objective months ago to do this plan was to open us up to have something substantial already in place, so that if grants and monies became available to the town through the state or the Fed, we were ahead of the game, rather than trying to backpedal. That was the primary objective to it.
Like the one we could have had.
Correct.
Right.
Not to so we don't miss out.
It wasn't.
I guess a further question would be, Evan, do you have any like off the thumb idea of how much height-wise soil has deposited or in that center channel from the original data when it was post Irene?
I don't know that right off the top of my head, but I can get you an answer for that.
I'm sure you have. I just didn't know if you had an
pretty
idea.
quickly.
If it had risen a couple feet by now, or whatnot. But
yeah, and I guess my point in bringing up the volume and the records or maybe what it would take to remove that sediment in the future when it does deposit, or as we know, it's probably what we call a grading now. It's already building up. Is really just like a cost consideration, because the cold river, it's good to remind ourselves, and we can keep talking about this into the future too about other areas, but the cold river is a river that moves a lot of material naturally, right? It's a high bed load river. It's got a high gradient, and the nature of the geology and the hills, not just here, but further south, we're working on a number of projects along the western face of the Green Mountains that are very similar in Mount Tabor and Manchester. There's a bunch of communities that are dealing with the very same issue, which is that there's very rounded glacial outwash material that's sitting up in the hills, and as we all know, we're getting more frequent heavy storms that's moving that material down the mountain, and it rolls down very readily. And to think that we could stop that material from landing in the valley in this area by Middle Road Bridge, which is where the slope takes, lessens out, where it takes an inflection point as the Cold River enters the Otter Creek Valley. It would take a lot of effort and cost to prevent that sediment from reaching that area upstream. So really, it's in my mind about managing it once it arrives there at that critical inflection point, which is pretty much right at the Route 7 bridge and then on down to the Middle Road Bridge and the railroad. That's the key area. And then, of course, we can keep talking about the area downstream too in the farmland. I mean, a lot of deposition happens down there, as we know. But this is the area where it all lands, and I just know that it would take a lot of effort and cost and repeat maintenance upstream. For example, along Cold River Road, along in the area where the Velco poles took a hit in Irene. There's a lot of sediment in there, but a program for repeat sediment management up in there would be quite costly.
Have any other questions?
No, I'm just something you might want to consider is, I think you and I talked about the log retaining walls. They're more of a natural. Yeah. We had a quick conversation about them. I think it was in your original recommendation for the state back in 2014, 2016, something like that would be like an option to help manage with bank erosion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
I'm just wondering if something like that would help also down west of the railroad bridge in order to help contain that sediment, so it instead of the sediment building up and going over the banks and continuing to erode the loose farmland that's there, it would shore up the banks and maybe actually some of that sediment may reinforce those log retaining walls.
Yeah, it is an option to consider. And they are more expensive approaches, but they can have their benefits above and beyond just rock slopes. Are relatively smooth. So.
It just seemed like A&R was more susceptible to something more of a natural aspect than riprap, you know what I mean, or large boulders or whatnot.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Good. Board good?
Yep.
Well, thank you, Evan, for taking the time out this evening for us. We appreciate it.
Okay, thanks for having me, and I'll be back with an update as we get into the analysis a bit more.
Sounds good.
Yep. Thank you.
Yep. Thank
Good
you.
evening.
Have a good evening. Thanks a lot.
Bye.
All right. Approval of the select board warrants. We're right over here. So if anybody wants to see how we're spending your money, good luck.
Our guests have left, or some of them.
Yeah. Anybody else want to be a guest? Public comments. All right, new business. Town meeting warrant approval.
Mr. Chairman, I'll go ahead and make a motion. Been over it and over it, so it's time to approve it. So make a motion to approve the town meeting warning.
And we all have to sign it.
Yep.
All right, is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
All right, any further questions, comments? All those in favor of the approval of the warning, town meeting warning, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay. Appointments to the rec committee. Laura, you want to speak to that? I think Art came in and,
He came in, he asked me he'd like to be on the rec committee, and he asked if we can appoint him to the committee.
So moved.
I'll second it.
all those in favor of the motion appointing Art to the rec committee, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? All right. Select Board Annual Report.
Question, Mr. Chairman, on that.
Okay.
Unless I missed something, should we have something in here regarding our friend Ashley and the fact that she left, and should we say thank you or
So,
anything?
yeah, so I had a couple recommendations. I was gonna make a motion that we delete paragraph 4 and that we add at the end a thank you to Ashley and also to Selectman Menard, who has announced he's coming off the board.
Yeah, I think that would be appropriate
You
too.
leave me off. Please.
Robert, what, just double checking, are you counting the first?
So, count down
Over the
1,
last year.
2, 3, 4. That one right there, your pen was just about, next one down. That one.
The year
Okay.
brought,
Yes, I'd like to delete that
delete that one.
Okay.
before it's published.
I think we should throw in Art's phone number on that too.
There you go. Any questions, please reach out to.
Extend any well wishes.
Yeah. Or if people want them to.
And I'll make a motion that we approve it with those changes.
All right.
I'll second that.
For the record, you want to say what changes that were again?
Deletion of paragraph 4 and a addition of a thank you to Ashley and Art at the end.
Okay. It's been seconded. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Anyone disdaining? Is that the term?
I oppose.
We settled on thank you.
Yeah.
Just a thank you. Accept it.
No phone number, no address.
Your decision.
All right. So select board annual report, you got that done. Check that. Transfer station discussion under old business.
I know George is gonna hand some stuff out, and then I wanna look it over. George and I met, a little over a week ago. I do have a motion that I'd like to make once everybody has a chance to look at it.
I guess that we signed it.
Maybe we need, guess that'll do it.
Called me today, they're new to town, they wanted to know when the meeting was. So they didn't leave their name. Assuming that was them?
I've never seen him before.
There we go.
They're new to town.
All right.
Thanks. That can go the other way now.
George, gotta sign that. You and Cash.
You can make more copies if you need to, I guess. You have to sign this, my friend. Okay, this bit of information is just something in terms of where to start, up, down, sideways, or whatever. I think that I've essentially covered most of the stuff surrounding money or money coming and going. What I didn't include is any kind of changes in terms of times and hours, personnel, that kind of thing. That's part of the discussion as well. So, would you like me to run down through this, or?
Yeah, go ahead, George.
Okay.
So it's on tape.
Well, what I've said here is we need to think about increasing the cost of our cards to cover the expenditures that are going out there. Roughly $80,000 a year is what the town is spending to get rid of trash and recyclables. And what we know is the minimum wage and benefits are going up some for employees, and the income from the transfer station is about $10,000. And as near as I can figure out, oops, we got to take the dollar sign out. It's costing 1,800 taxpayers $70,000 a year for 350 taxpayer users. As near as I can figure out, the number that actually are using buying cards and using the transfer stations, about 350 to could be a little higher. So the reality is 1,450 taxpayers are subsidizing 350 taxpayers. That's kind of an interesting thing to think about.
So does that mean 1,100 people are getting their trash picked up on
Somehow.
Percept?
Somehow.
So the 350 is the number of cards you sold in the last year?
Yes. Well, it's a couple of years. It's kind of an average, but the difficulty with that number is, well, Gloria can probably talk about it a little better than I can, is you got a lot of similar last names or same last names, and is it husband and wife, or is it the brother down the street? So in the count, the best number I could come up with is about 350, maybe 370. So I use 350.
In town that are taxpayers that just have land.
I'm sorry.
There's a lot of people in town that are taxpayers that just have land,
Yes.
so they don't
Yeah,
use it, but.
exactly. So anyways, that's the situation at that point. Now, the charges, the $80,000 is what I figured is what would be nice to not have to pay. If we divide it by the 350 users, that means that if these 350 users paid $228 a year, then we wouldn't have any money to pay out to Casella. If we take that 228 number and divide it by 52 weeks, that's what that is one of the somebody comes once a week. You need $4.40 a week, if I did the math correctly, to cover the 80,000. And that 440 is not an outrageous amount in today's world. And of course, that above assumes that 350 people will come every week. And if we're lucky, they'll come maybe twice a week, but that's an assumption. And I thought hard about this in terms of what I just outlined. And the red card should be, I think, $40, and the blue card at $20. And then I put in a yellow card at $10, you know, for each punch being $2 kind of thing. Because, you know, some folks may not have an extra 20, so 10 might be an option, I don't know. And then down below I suggested punches by bag count. We're talking volume versus weight. So the 5-gallon bag, which I guess might be somewhere near the white kitchen bag, is what I'm thinking.
I think you mean 15 gallon.
13 or 15.
What's that? I missed that.
The white kitchen bags are 13 gallons.
13 gallons? Okay. Thank you, because I was just guessing at that. I use I have the 30 gallon is what I use, so.
And right now they're only $1
Yep.
punch.
So if they made those 2 punches, that would get us close to the 440 I was talking about. And then the 30-gallon bags 3, and then I put in there full pickup truck, at least 10 punches is what I was thinking there. And I think that some discretion could certainly be used on that one in terms of full versus half or whatever. And then the last one, I said 1 punch for recyclables, and people say, what in the world are you saying there? Well, for recyclables, it cost us, hang on a minute, recyclables is a little over $3,000 we're spending just to get the recyclables out of here. So it's not a free thing.
And I did look into it, and most transfer stations are now charging at least a punch for recycles.
Yeah.
And it is legal to do so.
And when I'm recyclables, I'm thinking the, you know, things that you know, bottles, cans, and all that sort of thing, and they included in there. Sometimes are very rare do we get paid for cardboard. So that's part of the recyclables in my mind. So that is what I put together. Now down at the bottom, we talked about possible reduction in cost, and that's something that Robert and I have talked about at some point. Once we as a board have some idea of what we want to do in terms of hours, times, people, in this money thing that I've laid out here, once we come to some kind of a plan or conclusion there, that Bob and I would be happy to go and talk to Casella about the items listed below, which would be a lower cost per ton, and do something about the rental costs for equipment. Right now we're paying $5,000 a year just to rent the stuff that Casella provides us to run the operation. So I'm done.
Question, weren't you gonna look at purchasing a container, like for the recycs or something?
Yeah, that's
versus
what I'm talking
renting
about here.
Yeah.
Yep.
Do we,
So with that being said, and George and I met and talked a lot, and I've been mulling this over, and I would like to make the motion, and I guess before I read it off here, that this would be posted in the town report and also be on the website and handed out on election day here in a few weeks. That it be posted that as of April 1st, our punch cards are officially increasing by $1 for each punch. So that's basically what George has proposed here. Mm-hmm. That the hours of the transfer station will change from what they currently are to Wednesday and Saturday, Wednesday being 10 to 5 and Saturday being 8 to 1 as a cost-cutting measure. And not wanting to implement maybe too much too fast, in this motion I'm also requesting that we implement 1 punch for recycling as a starting point. So that's my motion.
And we're gonna honor the tickets that are out there now,
Till they're gone.
yes.
till they're gone.
Yep. Honor them till they're gone.
Okay.
Now, one of the issues, I mean, reducing the hours, of course, that's the manpower. I guess is the thing was like 14,000. If you reduce to 2 days, you're saving 14,000.
And we did research, and there were massive amounts of hours on the weekdays that nobody goes,
Right.
that we're
I guess
paying people to
My
sit there.
question is, what are you gonna do? Because you're not gonna save anything if you put 3 people on for 2
No,
days.
we're not
So what?
staying with 2 people.
So what's the plan with?
That's gonna have to be worked out by the
Okay,
board.
so
But we're not staying 2 people because we can't, you're right, if we put a third person over there on the 2
You just
days,
condense it,
you
you're not gonna
don't,
save
you don't
anything.
save anything.
Right.
So it's gotta stay 2 people. So the board will work out what that looks like.
Robert and I had quite a bit of discussion on that topic, and I don't think we came to any recommendations that we want to make. I think the full board needs to get into.
The full board has to do that. I mean, I thought about it a lot since, and like I say, it's not pertaining to this motion, but my stance is we gotta stick with 2 people, because if you put 3 people over there,
Right.
there's no cost savings.
And I much prefer having, those 3 individuals that are present there now come into a meeting
And we can work it
and we
out.
can work it out in executive session.
Question, you can't just reduce the hours on Tuesdays and Thursdays? I'm not gonna try to do the math in my head. Reduce the hours, say, from like, I don't know, 2 to 5 on Tuesday and Thursday to make up for a Wednesday, Saturday?
All things are possible.
I'm just kind of throwing that out there, going, okay, 2 days a week.
Best thing to do is look at that schedule where he did the check off of the
One of-
activity.
One of the thought
Each day.
processes is by going to a completely different day, you eliminate the issue of people, you're gonna have tons of complaints on the Tuesdays and Thursdays, whereas if you just change the day, and you're gonna come
And I think
out,
just the opposite.
you're gonna come out with less headaches in the long run by just changing the day.
Have you thought anything about doing like Wallingford, where they send out 2 cards with your tax bill?
That's something to be discussed later. That's not a part of this.
Okay, but, you know,
It's a
and I'm
good-
sure you'd have to put it out to the voters that you were gonna do something like that, but it would definitely help with the revenue, cause I know down in Wallingford, when I lived down there, a lot of people got the cards, and it was $40 that you got charged with your tax bill. And it said if you didn't use the transfer station, you could have your trash hauler send a note to the town clerk, and they would reimburse you your $40. But a lot of them were people that were either had vacation homes or something of that nature. They didn't care. $40 didn't matter anything to them. But when you took it by the number of taxpayers there was, it was a big dollar figure that they got to help run their transfer station. Not, you know,
I got it.
so.
It's still in a conversation.
That's something that, yeah, because we have until October for that, so, well, August, September, before we would decide that, so that's kind of the current discussion.
I think
Bob?
one,
I'm sorry, Bob, you had your hand.
Have you considered Saturdays, especially starting in April through probably October, of extending the hours on Saturday by an hour?
It would be extended.
Probably have to see how busy they are.
We can discuss that. I think we want to start here as a starting point and see what we end up with.
Yep.
We're open to it, but I think that would be after we test run it for a few weeks, see how it goes, and if we need to, we would address it.
Yeah, because I know this time of year, it's quiet over there, once you get beyond noon.
Yeah.
But having been over there somewhat, once you get into the spring cleaning and so on, then people show up later.
Sure. Yep. No, we're definitely open to it.
Danny, do you have something?
Yeah, the 80,000 that it costs us now to get rid of the trash, that includes the labor?
Yes.
That we're existing now?
Yes.
Okay, so, does this summarize the cost cutting of just having 2 people on 2 days also?
No, that's not in that.
It's
That's
not
not
in
in
this
that plan.
figure,
We're
no.
trying to.
Yep.
And actually, what part of what this is coming from is we just passed the warning, and we in our budget calculated the savings of going to these hours,
Okay.
and that's part of what the current budget that's being presented to the voters is based on. So the new budget is looking at that. and looking at the increased revenue to try and offset the costs.
Kevin, did you have something?
I just was looking at the full pickup truck equals 10 punches, and, you know, I run large bags, and I know when I throw a large bag in my truck, there's a lot of space still left in the back end of that truck. I can see one large bag getting 4 punches, but filling the whole truck bed only taking 10.
That's why that's not in my motion.
Okay,
We're not voting on that.
okay. That's something that needs to be discussed, reworked.
Yes, that we
I mean,
need
I've
to-
seen it at times when I've been there, and I'm sure all of us have been, when you see the person with the pickup truck comes in, it's all full of stuff, you
Yep.
know, and,
Yep.
you know, and it's hard for a horse, all of them, to kind of determine how many punches for that, so.
Horse is, being pretty proactive with this. He's getting all his, employees that are over there now to go out. If you'll notice when you go over there, in the office door, they put in big glass windows now, so that if the guys in cold weather especially are inside, they can see people pull in, where before they couldn't. And
Yep.
some people were honest and they came in and asked to get punched, and then some people, oh, well, nobody's out here, I'm leaving, kind of thing. So we're trying to get this squared away.
Mr. Chairman, I'll call the motion.
All right, there's a motion.
Question here first.
What was your motion? One more time.
As of April 1st, all punch cards increased by $1 a punch. Hours changing on Wednesday and Saturday to Wednesday and Saturday 10 to 5 on Wednesday, 8 to 1 on Saturday, and then instituting a punch for recycling.
Okay, so the 5 gallon, or the 15 gallon bag, the 30 gallon, 40 gallon.
That's not what I'm proposing to leave it.
Yeah, you're
Leave
just
that
doing
the same
a
right now.
quick summary right now to start with.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Sounds good.
I think that that one takes a lot more discussion, and particularly the pickup thing, because if you go over to Hubbard, you just drive your pickup on the scale.
Yeah, that's how they do
And there's nothing to say we can't adjust the punches later.
That's exactly right.
This is the big stuff that we need to
Yes,
get out
absolutely.
to the public.
Well, it
and
gives you a starting point.
give us a starting point.
And that was part of your motion, you did say to put out notice of all of the.
Yes, and I started the motion with that
Yeah.
it be noticed at town meeting,
Yep,
in the town report,
yep,
and
posted.
posted.
And hand out a transfer station.
And transfer
Bob
station.
had one more question.
Yeah, just curious, how are the recycled metal doing? Are we getting much return on that?
Not a huge amount, no.
No,
Minimal. The prices aren't great right now.
no, they're
and-
not, I know they're down, but.
And whether it was a
$500
clerical error or
$500
not,
over the course of a year.
when we
2
brought
years.
it to Casella's attention that we hadn't been paid in quite some time, miraculously a check showed up. So, yeah.
All right, there's been a motion made, it's been seconded, we've had a lengthy discussion. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Great.
I do have one thing to say about it. It's nothing major, about the card colors.
I'm sorry.
The card colors, can we keep the red at 20 and the blue at 10 and just add yellow for the 40? Because that's what I have.
However you want, I mean,
Supply back, that's mine.
Whatever, all they are is they're changing,
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
basically doubling in price.
Because I have cards that they can use the same color, so.
Sure.
Just want to add a yellow to 40.
sure,
That's all.
Whatever works.
yep. Again, that wasn't part of the motion.
Yep, I know. That's why I added after.
And only if fire stays on the board.
He didn't even laugh.
He's smiling.
Oh, okay. All right, town officers report, Gloria, do you have anything else?
Oh, there's a town meeting coming up on March 4th.
Yeah.
Town meeting election, 10 to 7.
Down at the school.
No, the town meeting down there is, the annual meeting
Yep.
is March 3rd at 6 o'clock
Okay.
Is it at the school or at the?
at the community center.
We're gonna be in the Grange?
Yes.
Okay.
But election is here Tuesday.
But
from 10 to 7.
informational, what is that, 7 o'clock?
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock?
Yes.
Okay, so 6 o'clock informational meeting the night before.
Yes, community center, yes.
Kevin, do you have anything?
I'm all set.
Okay, anybody else have anything? select board members' concerns before we go into executive session. Do you have any concerns?
There's one thing I want to bring about. With even a little bit of snow we got, there's a lot of people that are plowing across the road
I've seen it too.
Yeah.
and leaving a lot of snow on the road. Enough's enough. I don't care if you're snow blowing or plowing across the road. It is totally illegal. You can get fined for it. And if this keeps up, we're going to start having the sheriff visit or the town taking care of
Well, I think
the policy.
I think it's important that you stay on top of that because it can be quite dangerous in some spots.
I've seen it. I mean, not very far away from here, so.
Right.
Yeah.
You have the right to push it. I know years ago they did. My brother pushed it quite a few times and everything else because, you know,
Yep.
it had, and that was kind of in the beginning of the wings of the truck. And now that everything's got a wing on it, you know, you set your rate sideways if that bank gets hard enough.
George, you have anything?
I guess, what I'd like to suggest at a later time that we have a board discussion on, I was looking at the list of articles here that we're gonna be voting on, including such things as the money for the, fire truck and, I can't remember what the other one that stuck out, but what I'm also thinking about is on our budget, we've included other identities in town that have asked for money that we've had part of the budget, and I'm wondering if we should have a discussion on having those items be a separate article as well. It's a future discussion idea.
For like the rec committee and the
Yes,
community center, that kind of stuff?
yes, that's what I'm talking about.
Can be a discussion.
Yeah, that's all I got.
I'm good.
I'm all set tonight.
I'm good.
Make a motion, we enter into executive session to discuss personnel issues.
Second.
No time limit.
Okay. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?